my master's. I'm currently getting my master's degree at the University of Washington in Social School of Social Work. So I've had the opportunity to do some more studying of the nervous system while I've been in school. And how trauma impacts the function of our nervous system. And it's been so interesting. It's one of those topics that once you start learning about it, there's so much more to learn. So suffice it to say that I'm coming to you as a co-learner. I am not a licensed therapist, but if this work is interesting to you, or after today, you really would like to dive deeper into some more of the kind of the chewy, sticky elements of nervous system work, I highly recommend it. It's very powerful for restoring really good function in our lives, but I would recommend finding a licensed helping professional to do that with you, either a counselor, a therapist, a licensed clinical social worker, so that they can hold space for you to be able to do that work safely and really effectively. All right, well, while Justin is getting those slides going, he's doing a beautiful job of being my support person. Thank you, Justin. I'll start sharing some of what I'm hoping today can be for all of us. I'm hoping to be able to provide you all with a better understanding of your nervous system through the lens of the polyvagal theory. And that's a theory that was developed by Stephen Porges, who's a doctor of psychology. And he's done decades of work to understand kind of the impact of trauma and life experience on the way that our nervous system functions and responds and reacts. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward, all the different types of trauma that people experience in their lives. And I'm hoping to help you have a better, yes, this talk will be available later. I'm just looking in the chat. It's being recorded, and we're going to be putting it up on our BIAWA YouTube channel, so you can refer to it later, point other people to it. We're not going to be recording the question and answer and feedback section at the end, but all the rest of it will be up there for you. I'm hoping too that you can gain a better understanding of the difference between dysregulated nervous system and a regulated nervous system, and that you'll have a few tools to take with you to practice building awareness and building some skills in having a more regulated nervous system. So I can see that Justin's been able to make progress. Thank you, friends. Something that is really lovely about some of the resources that I've been diving into, there's a woman by the name of Deb Dana, and she's a licensed clinical social worker. And she's taken this polyvagal theory that we're going to talk about and broken it down into some really applicable strategies and tools. And for me, that really helps me learn, because some of the information out there in the beautiful world of science and research can become kind of overwhelming. And for me, applying it really helps me get a better feel for it and be able to actually benefit from it. So I am thrilled to be able to present this information to you as I've been learning more about it, and hopefully it will be helpful. So I'm not sure, Justin, are you able to do full screen? I know you're trying.
For some reason, I'm not.
Okay.
So I can only do this from here. For some reason, my Canva is not cooperating with me.
So I'll have you scroll that's the first slide. I'm going to have you scroll to the third slide. Oh, this is interesting. That's an older version of my slides. That's okay. I'm just going to regulate my nervous system and keep on going. So you can move past the agenda. Great. All right, let's just jump into that. Okay, bear with me. I'm using my computer also, so I have my notes. So it's a little bit different order than I intended, but that's just fine. So the whole premise of how our nervous system operates really is impacted by the life experiences that we've had. So we're gonna stop on this topic for a moment and discuss trauma a little bit. And trauma comes in many forms. And I'm kind of wanting to just give acknowledgement to that in this slide. So whether it's through a traumatic brain injury or another kind of physical accident, it could be emotional trauma that people experience in their personal lives and workplaces and their communities. And there's also environmental trauma in terms of social oppression, bias, microaggressions. And then we have things like just the chronic stress and financial strain. So all these types of experiences can really impact the way our nervous system functions. So there's two authors, Duros and Crowley, had this definition of trauma that I feel like is really beneficial. So they describe trauma as what happens to a person when there's either too much too soon, like perhaps like a violent physical accident, traumatic brain injury, when there is too much for too long. So maybe a person's in a physical environment or in a relationship or in a work dynamic that's really stressful and really troubling. Or also when there's not enough for too long. So that could be just not enough human connection, not enough positive feedback and experiences in our daily lives. So there are lots of different kinds of trauma, but that is the perspective of the polyvagal theory, is recognizing that and honoring that is impactful, and then learning ways to become aware so that we can bring healing. And that is the beauty of our human bodies and minds and spirits, is that we do have the capacity to heal. We have a capacity to relearn. We can remap our minds, and we can also remap our nervous system. And that really, it's an exciting opportunity. It isn't casual work, but every incremental shift makes a difference in our daily outcomes and how we interact and connect with the world. So let me have you move on to, let's see. So you can move to the next slide. It'll be interesting to see what that is. Okay. Well, pardon me, everyone. Move backwards. Thanks, Justin. Sorry about that. And again, backwards, and see where I land. One more. Okay. Let me move to, keep moving forward, and I'll tell you when to stop, because my slide deck is different. One more. Okay, stop right there. Perfect. Okay. So I have two slides. I have a slide here that isn't showing. Maybe we'll figure out how to put that slide deck up also on the channel. We'll talk about that after this class. But there are three really important concepts kind of related to this slide that you're seeing. One of them is neuroception. So that is the fact that our autonomic nervous system is constantly taking in information and sending signals to our body, to our nervous system, to our brain. So when we're out in the world and entering new situations, we're interacting with people, our subconsciously, our nervous system is checking for safety and checking for connection. And if we can find both those things, that sends a really clear, calming message to our nervous system. But if we don't feel those things, that safety and that connection, then our nervous system gets other messages. Maybe for leaving, fleeing, hiding. There's any number of responses that our nervous system has. And our nervous system is set up in a hierarchy. So we have our very basic level of our nervous system that is our dorsal vagal nervous system. So you'll see this in the slide. The next level of our nervous system is our sympathetic nervous system. And that's probably we've heard the term fight or flight. That comes from our sympathetic nervous system. And then we have our ventral vagal nervous system, which is the highest level of our nervous system. It's technically the newest level of our nervous system, even though it's been with us for a long time. But that is the feature and the place in our nervous system that allows us to connect, it allows us to build relationships, and it allows us to be able to maneuver through our day. What come what may, we have the resilience and the ability to stay connected and engaged and accomplish what we need to accomplish. So this is how our autonomic nervous system is broken down. We have our parasympathetic, which houses the initial old, deep dorsal vagal nervous system. And that when it's in full gear, we shut down, disconnect, kind of escape like a turtle in a shell. And then it houses the beautiful ventral vagal social engagement feature. And then our sympathetic is part of, it's all under our autonomic nervous system. And something that's really is on a different slide that is not available here, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but is the concept of co-regulation. So because we're wired for connection as humans and we need that relationship feature in our lives, Stephen Porges discovered that co-regulation is something that our autonomic nervous system is always looking for. We're always looking for that place to connect, that place to feel safe. And we benefit when we have people in our lives that we can connect with in that way. It can also be a pet, but just developing, I'm hoping that each one of you has at least one person, if not a number, and maybe a pet or two, where when you're in the presence of that person or that pet, you feel calm and you feel glad to be there. That's what's called co-regulation. So your nervous system and the nervous system of this other person are able to feel comfortable and at peace with one another. And that is that's the place where we can build trust and creativity and beautiful shared experience. Go ahead and move to the next slide, Justin. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I'm a visual person, so I'm going to present the nervous system hierarchy in two different ways. So this is the first way, very linear, but we operate on a spectrum of our nervous system all day long, all throughout our lives. So I'm wanting to focus on the features of our nervous system when they're working well and when they're helping us and serving us well. So that very initial primal beginning level of our nervous system, the dorsal, regulates our digestion, which helps deliver nutrients. And it's in charge of the organs that are kind of like below our diaphragm. So kind of below, like above our belly button, but below our heart. Then we have our sympathetic nervous system, and that is that next level of our nervous system developmentally, and it's responsible for all of the organs and the things that happen kind of above our diaphragm, like our heart rate regulation. It adjusts our breathing rate depending on what's happening, and it gives us energy for activities, and it helps us respond if there's danger or a situation maybe that we need to, we're experiencing a lack of safety, and it helps us have the energy to get out of that situation. So then our ventral vagal, when our ventral vagal is in charge of this whole spectrum, which comes by building awareness of what that feels like in our body to be in that peaceful, clear space, it allows us to benefit the most from that sympathetic fight or flight and that dorsal, that digestion or immobilization. So when its arms are wrapped around our nervous system, it allows us to be flexible. And we can know that we can leave a situation that's unsafe, but then when we found safety again, we can relax and calm down. Same with our dorsal. When we're in a situation where we're just feeling flooded with emotion or overwhelmed, we can tap into that dorsal place and just rest and just find that calm inside and be able to detach and regroup, but we don't stay stuck there. Because it's really important for us as humans to stay and find safe, good connection. It really helps us grow. It supports immune function. It helps us rest well. All of these aspects that give us the ability to enjoy a rich life and respond to what the demands of our life are really come from the ventral vagal nervous element of the nervous system housing all the rest of us and kind of carrying us. So feel free to move to another slide, Justin. Great. Okay. Bear with me while I catch up on my side here. Okay. So a lot of times the nervous system hierarchy is depicted with a ladder to just help us understand that we're moving kind of up and down that ladder throughout our day. I chose this picture of more of like a rainbow or an arch because when our ventral vagal system is in charge, we're really able to utilize um, all the other aspects of our nervous system and have a much better day, to put it simply. So when our sympathetic nervous system is really activated in that fight or flight, um, what happens if we get stuck in that space is we're not able to receive information well, we're not able to connect with other people. So for me, analogies are really helpful. And so I was thinking about, I'm sure all of you have experienced many times being in a car or in your house and there's a fly that is buzzing around and just keeps hitting the glass. It's trying to get out the car window. It's trying to get out the sliding glass door, and it can't understand why it can't get through the glass, and it keeps spinning and circling. And I'm sure you all, like I have opened the window or rolled down the window, however, to allow that fly to get outside. And it's so panicked and it's so caught in its worry, and it can't even feel the breeze. It doesn't recognize there's a door open right next to it. It's not able to benefit from the help that someone's trying to give it. And that is exactly what happens to us when we end up getting stuck in that sympathetic space. It's difficult to get work done. It's difficult to rest well. It's really makes our relationship connections more challenging. Um, and we're also not in a place where we can really offer support and connection to other people. So when we are in that space, if we can build skills, which we're going to talk about, on recognizing what that ventral vagal energy feels like in our body, what we're able to accomplish or experience when we're in that ventral vagal, it helps us be able to come out of that sympathetic and back into a place of more calm and clear. So I'll have you move to the next slide, Justin. Okay, so maybe the next one. I know someone's asking to make the slide occupy the whole screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, excellent. Nice. Well done. Okay. So before we dive deeply into this slide, I'm going to keep this right here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the vagus nerve. So I'm sure a lot of you know about this or have heard this term, but the vagus nerve is kind of in charge of that whole string of our nervous system from ventral to dorsal. And so when we can tone and build awareness in our function and in this ventral vagal state, it allows us to really capture a lot more capacity in maintaining calm and clarity and an ability to do the tasks that we want and have the relationships we want to have. So ventral awareness. So in this work, it's important to become really familiar because we're going to be building a roadmap. So if I know and you know what it feels like in our body when we feel calm, when we're in a social situation that's making us laugh, when we're feeling creative, when we feel really able to be happy about a friend of ours who just had this beautiful news come through, even if we have a huge deadline the next day for our job, that ventral vagal space allows us what we call kind of a both and thinking and both and existence. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Everything doesn't have to be going just our way in order for us to kind of be buoyed through these experiences in our lives. So before we do deeper work in our nervous system, it's really valuable to become aware in our body what that lovely space feels like. Because we need to know what it feels like so we can recognize when we're in it and appreciate it and be able to get ourselves back to that space if we start being stressed or feeling like we're just overwhelmed and need to check out. Um, because what happens sometimes is if we get stuck, for example, in that dorsal vagal state, that very first state, and we don't have the tools or the awareness to get back to that ventral space, that calm and clear, peaceful state, it can put us in a position of being unsafe, but unaware of being unsafe. So I think about an image of an ostrich, that whole the story about, the ostrich buries its head in the sand and thinks that it's safe because it can't see anyone or hear anything. But meanwhile, as we all know, the whole rest of the ostrich's body is vulnerable and open to a predator. And so if we get really deep in that dorsal and get really disconnected and really shut down and kind of disappear to the world, it makes it really hard for us to recognize a situation that actually isn't safe. And that's kind of the opposite of being stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight. So in dorsal, if we get stuck there, we can really have poor judgment, I guess, on what's happening in our surroundings and where we need to be. And if we're stuck in that sympathetic state, we really end up feeling like we're constantly running from a predator or needing to get safe, even when we're in a safe situation. So this resilience of our nervous system is so valuable. And it's a process. And I am continually on this process myself and have lots of opportunities to laugh because I need to stop and realize, why am I panicked about, a deadline? Like, wait a minute. Okay. I don't have a tiger chasing me, a deadline's a deadline, but really it doesn't have to be a bigger task or impact me more than it really needs to. And it just helps me kind of break down steps, take a deep breath, and remember that I don't need to attach so much energy and attention to something that doesn't deserve it. So these are just all ways that we can build better skills in moving through the world the way that we want to, so that we can say yes to the things that we want, and we can organize the other things that are a little more challenging in ways that we can manage them more effectively. So go ahead and move to the next slide. We'll see what it is. Okay, great. All right, yay. So I put this slide here as an invitation for all of you simply to reflect on places, sounds, smells, spaces, whether that's indoor or outdoor, that make you feel relaxed, that you look forward to being in, or that you have positive memories of. Some people love the outdoors, other people don't. Some of us have places that we've been, our grandparents' home, or maybe a beautiful hike, and we don't have access to that in this moment, or maybe when we're feeling really stressed. But if we can create an imaginal space that includes these ingredients that have brought us joy and peace and calm, it's like a toolbox within yourself. And I kind of call it like decorating your ventral vagal space. It's kind of a mouthful, but when we can create these kind of space in our minds, or if imagination is something that is difficult for you or not comfortable for you, drawing a picture, painting a picture can be really helpful. Or I personally love certain scents. So for today, for example, I'm burning a mint candle because that smell makes me feel calm but alert. And that is kind of the epitome of that beautiful ventral state, as you can feel the sensations and feel the joy, even when you're thinking about things that are challenging. That ventral state allows us to be able to touch in on challenging news, but also continue to, you know, make a meal for dinner, engage with friends, just again, that both and. So this slide is just an invitation for you to reflect on and take with you, kind of imagining, creating, and building that space. Again, it could be a beautiful memory that you have, or it could be a space that you would love to go to, or it could be a mixture of elements that give you joy and help you, would be helpful for you to remember when you're kind of in an anxious state or feeling like you just want to check out. Okay, Justin, go ahead and move to next. Okay, so I'm just going to check my time. Okay, I know you all were so patient to get started here. So um, Deb Dana, in her work in helping the polyvagal beautiful theory kind of get broken down into a way that we are able to kind of digest and apply, has many, many different exercises and activities that are really you know, great for not one size fits all learners. So I picked these three just to talk about more today, but I also have some other ideas for really accessible, simple, everyday strategies too. So um, this first one, called a pie chart, is an invitation if you find that this resonates with you. So the invitation is at the end of the day, you take a moment and you have paper or journal by your bed, and you take a shape. It could be a pie chart, it could be a square, a triangle, it doesn't matter what shape. But you think about your day and you divide that shape into 3 areas, and each represents how much time you feel like you spent, maybe in that dorsal, shut down, disconnected space, or in that sympathetic space, you know, where you just felt anxious or nervous, your heart was racing and your blood pressure was elevated. And then in that ventral space where you felt curious and calm. So the invitation is ideally to do this for a month, to take that time at the end of your day. And the beauty of it, first of all, is simply building self-awareness. Because as humans, we naturally remember kind of what happened at the end of a day. Even if the rest of the day was lovely, if the end of the day was challenging, sometimes we forget the rest, and vice versa. So this is a great way of building awareness and just celebrating and appreciating the true day that you had. But if you do this over the course of a month, it can be a very insightful and for finding patterns. So for example, I'm just thinking of examples. You might go look at your chart, your series of charts. And of course, this information is just for you. And it's really a place of self-discovery, without judgment, just with curiosity. You're gathering information about yourself. But let's say that every Sunday, you're noticing that you're spending a lot more time in that dorsal kind of shut down, immobilized part of your nervous system than really any other day of the week. So that would be an opportunity to know what's different about my Sunday. You know, what tasks do I do on that day? What social engagements am I having or not having? You know, am I anticipating the work week or the school week starting? So it just allows you some information to explore, with the opportunity to imagine how you could expand that ventral energy into that day and kind of bring more balance. You might find on another day, on every Thursday, you're noticing I have so much more ventral vagal percentage in my pie chart on Thursdays. Why is that? You know, it could be that when you reflect, that's the day that you always have a phone call with a certain friend, or maybe that's a day you meet with your therapist, or that's the day that, you know, you always go to a certain park, or, you know, whatever that might be. Just notice those patterns. And when we get this kind of information about ourselves, it allows us to make choices so that we can expand that time and that time in our ventral vagal state. So the next one here is anchors. And this is an opportunity for you to think about, who are your people that you can think of, and immediately it helps you feel calm, or you think, I'm so happy I have this person in my life, or I always look forward to seeing this person. Who are your people? And again, they can be a pet. Many of us have had and do have pets that bring us that kind of joy. Um, so anchors are places, people, times, experiences that you can immediately think of that help you kind of pause and capture that ventral vagal calm, content, energy. And that's just all we need sometimes, is just that moment to capture that calmer space. Excuse me. Hopefully I won't get kicked out, all of you. Zoom is giving me a warning. Um, so that's just like a quick way to just immediately shift gears. And sometimes that's all we need. It's just to shift gears for a moment, and we can remember, okay, I don't have to stay stuck in my anxiousness and my concern. I can think about something that makes me feel good, makes me feel positive. And the last one I wanted to dive into is the vagal break. So this is one of the features of the polyvagal theory, is really acknowledging that we are going up and down our nervous system ladder, or in that nervous system arch, throughout each day. But this vagal break, you can use the imagery of a car brake. I use the imagery of a water faucet because I have an irrigation system in my garden. And if there's too much pressure, the irrigation system breaks apart in places and causes all sorts of problems. So if you think about an image that allows you to slow down your dive into your dorsal nervous system or your sympathetic nervous system, that's really beneficial. So you just think, oh, I'm gonna turn down that water faucet a little bit and reduce that pressure, or I'm going to imagine I'm in a hot air balloon and I'm gonna put a little bit of, little bit of, I'm gonna open up the gas and rise back up out of that dorsal or sympathetic nervous system back into ventral. For those of us that live in this area, there are definitely some beautiful places where you can see those hot air balloons floating. And you can, I can imagine and remember from seeing them how they rise up in the air, and you can think about that going into that ventral vagal, positive, helpful space. And sometimes they have to descend, and it's just kind of a rhythm. So this vagal break, you can pick whichever one you want to visualize, is helpful in kind of slowing down, are kind of crashing down into some of those unhelpful levels of our nervous system. So next slide, Justin. Let's see what we've got here. Well, I will keep going. I'm not sure what happened for him. He may have been kicked off also. So I wanted to briefly go over some really approachable strategies for accessing that ventral nervous system before we close and then go to questions and answers. But there's some wonderful techniques. Humming is one. Giving yourself a butterfly hug. So you can give yourself a butterfly hug and tap your biceps or your shoulders and think about something positive. Think about one of your ventral anchors. Think about a place or a person and just tap that. This bilateral contact with your body helps the right and left brain to communicate, and it helps to calm us down. So that's a really simple one. Rocking back and forth, side to side, if that's comfortable for your body. Rocking your head forward and back or side to side, whatever feels safe or comfortable, can also be really helpful. Movement helps us move, ironically, helps us to move into different states of our nervous system, and we're conscious about it and focusing on that ventral vagal state. It can help us move into that state, out of that reactive sympathetic when it's not serving us. So there's also deep belly breathing. And I'm going to do a short exercise with you all if you're interested in that. Again, I have a slide for this, but it's not showing, and I'm sorry about that. But belly breathing, which a lot of you I'm sure have heard about, it's part of yoga practice. which is another beautiful way to connect with this work and with your nervous system, incorporates belly breathing. So take one hand, and put it on your chest, and the other hand, if you choose to, and put it on your stomach, kind of around your belly button. And this is to help us remember to breathe into that hand that's on our belly, not up in our chest, because breathing into our belly helps to massage our vagus nerve. And so you can lay on the floor with your knees up if that's comfortable. If you're not laying down right now, maybe choose that position later, but leaning back into your chair so you can feel your back in the chair, and that hand on your belly and hand on your chest. And when you breathe in through your nose, let your belly expand to kind of push that hand out. And then when you breathe through your mouth, exhale through your mouth, you can feel your belly kind of collapse. So breathing, let's try at least one round. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but just to get a feel for it. So for the count of 4, breathe in through your nose and expand into that hand on your belly. Okay, here we go. And breathe out through your mouth and collapse that belly. Let's do one more. It feels good to me. Breathe in through your nose, expand into that hand, into your belly. And breathe out through your mouth. So this is something that you can access anytime, along with humming and singing and rocking, in addition to some of these other techniques. So I don't know if Justin is able to move the slides forward, but I really wanted to acknowledge Janet Novinger is on this call, I believe, but she's local to those of us on this call that are local, and she hosts a 1 hour long yoga class from 3 to 4 at the Wallingford Center. And don't know if I feel brave enough at the moment to drop that in the chat. But when we stop recording and move to questions and answers, I will try and do that. But that class is so beautiful, and it's free to brain injury survivors. And that is such a beautiful practice to help get connected with your nervous system through breathing and movement, and just being present and intentional. So I'm grateful that that is something that this community can access. And I want to thank you all for being here today. I want to thank you for your patience, and we'll work on getting this posted to our website. And I will try and also attach the additional slides that have a little more information. So thank you, Justin.